But walk me through the counter argument to that, why he needs to stay in the race, and if whether or not, as he said, he is the most qualified person to beat Trump.
Well, I would ask all of these people, are they prepared to ask President Biden, who's had an extremely successful first term with legislative accomplishments that we haven't seen in recent history for a first-term president, with an economy that's actually booming in this country, with unprecedented job growth, low unemployment, number one energy producer in the world, stock market through the roof. Are they prepared to ask him to step down? Because that's ultimately what these people are asking President Biden to do, is to step down from the presidency. Because he can't step aside and say, well, I don't have it together enough to go on as the candidate, but I can still remain president of the United States. There's no way that's going to happen. So we need to have an honest conversation with what they're asking. I think that at this point, that it's really up to President Biden. It's up to him what he decides to do. But the piling on, particularly in the media and the punditry class for the last 10 days has not been helpful. You can ask those questions, sure. And you know what? President Biden has to prove himself. Absolutely. That was a disastrous debate. Everybody acknowledges that. He is on the world stage next week, and he will have to prove himself again. However, he has not demonstrated thus far that he's incapable of running the country. Are we in a crisis? Are a million people dying? Do we have, portable morgues in the streets of New York City and mass graves like we did 4 years ago? Is the country in disarray? It is not. So I am just concerned about the way that this is now being reported on. Enough. Everybody gets it. He needs to prove himself. But in the meantime, we are losing focus on what's actually happening on the other side. There is more news than just that Joe Biden is old. And I think Democrats need to also recognize the impracticality of what they're asking to do. This is not an Aaron Sorkin West Wing episode. It doesn't work that way, where President Biden just gets to walk away and they get to write in a new candidate. There are a lot of issues, and Democrats, no offense to my Democratic friends, but they're like herding cats. They can't agree on what time of day it is most of the time. And there were 700 uncommitted delegates for the DNC before this. They still weren't unified, even with President Biden winning overwhelmingly in the primary. So they think we're going to go into a brokered convention in August and everyone's going to come out smelling like roses and they're going to be unified? That is unlikely and impractical. And that's not even talking about ballot access in all 50 states, which is a problem too. So this is something I think that needs to be a balanced conversation. And they need to know that President Biden's already proven himself to beat Donald Trump. It's not an unknown moving forward. With him, if you bring in another candidate, they have to be vetted. They always have skeletons in their closet, too. And we are only 120 days away from the election. Stay focused, eye on the prize, and know that the enemy here is MAGA, Donald Trump, and that extremism and the end of our democracy, not Joe Biden.
I guarantee you I've spoken to more people than probably everyone you've had on the television for the past 3 or 4 days, if not the past 3 or 4 weeks, getting out there to the rural parts of the country, listening to real people.
No, and certainly that's a valid point. That's a valid point. You are a candidate after all, so we certainly hope that you are doing that. But go ahead, Terry. You wanted to jump in and make a point as well.
Just a couple of things.
Sure.
It's not news that the American people are frustrated with the two choices. That's not news. But those are the choices. And if there was to be an open primary, we can't wish cast what should have been before. What happened is Joe Biden won the Democratic primary, and we are in July. In 2008, Barack Obama only had 50% in the Democratic Party support when he was on his way to winning the nomination. 50% at this point in 2008. And guess what? He won over 90% of the Democratic votes. So understanding that people are frustrated now, I hear you. Is it an ideal situation? It's not. But it's a binary choice right now. And you cannot, if you were to ask those same people, if they understood what it took in order to switch out President Biden now, are they prepared? Do they want President Biden to resign the presidency? I would like to see what people think about that. Do they think that?
Why is that the issue? Sorry, I just don't understand. Why are you asking people to resign? Nobody's saying he should resign. People are worried that he's not going to be able to finish 4 more years. And if
politically, you can't keep him as president and expect him to step down away from the nomination. There will be too much pressure on him to have to step completely away and let Kamala Harris ascend to the vice presidency so she can demonstrate to people that she's running.
David,
this is just that's the political reality of that.
Listen, I don't think it's too late. France and England can run races. It might be helpful that actually there's a pushback against the political industrial complex to actually run a four-month campaign. This is not about starting from ground zero. There's enough funds out there to be able to run the race that needs to get raced. I'm just telling you, people are sick and tired of these two candidates, and I think it can be liberating, something like that. I think it can be done.
How do you raise the money? Adam, how do you raise the money? If it's not Kamala Harris and it's some new slate of candidates, they have to start from zero, from scratch. The money doesn't transfer over. The war chest does not because of campaign finance laws. And what about ballot access? What do you do about that with the deadlines for ballot access? It costs billions of dollars to run for president. You think that's going to happen in 4 months? You can't compare us to Europe. We're a completely different system. This is a fantasy. And I think it's a disservice to tell the American people that it's practical for us to just switch out a president of the United States and just start a whole new campaign 4 months before the election when he's actually done a pretty damn good job. And at this point, until he demonstrates that he is incompetent of running the country, then I think that only he can make that decision moving forward. And we need to start putting the focus back on Donald Trump and what he's doing and not let them get away with it. Women's rights are on the line. Our democracy is on the line. And we cannot keep doing this. We're handing this over to MAGA.
Also, some breaking news that we got while we were on the air, that scheduled call tomorrow with Senate Democrats by Senator Mark Warner, that is not taking place tomorrow. We don't know when it will take place, but it is a sign that that scheduled call will not be taking place. Tara Setmayer, David Corn, Adam Frisch, thank you to the three of you for starting us off tonight. Thank you so much.